On this episode of Law Weekly, we talk to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ebolu Adegboruwa, on issues ranging from the Magodo land dispute, the alleged murder of Sylvester Oromoni, and how the judiciary can perform better this new year. We also have some reactions trailing the legal advice from the office of the DPP on Sylvester Oromoni's case, as well as the top legal stories in the news. Hello and welcome to Law Weekly. I'm Shola Sheyeli. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ebolu Adegboruwa, believes that the rot in the legal profession is very deep. But how can the judges and the courts face the challenges ahead, especially with the expected increase in political activities? That's the starting point of our conversation.
The judiciary is well up to the task in terms of the knowledge, in terms of experience, in terms of capacity. If you recall that among the three tiers of government that we have, the judiciary is the only stable arm. When the military come, it will dissolve the parliament, suspend the executive, even suspend the constitution. But the courts have been the link and the chain between successive governments. So the kind of heritage, the kind of documentation, the kind of precedents and the experience that the judiciary has garnered over the years is incomparable to any other arm of government. But having said that, it also behoves the government, especially the executive, to do its best towards restructuring the judiciary, especially in the areas of funding, infrastructure, and the welfare of judicial officers and judicial staff. It's important that there should be some kind of upgrade in the working conditions of judicial officers. For instance, in Lagos State, probably the last time salaries of judges were increased was during the tenure of the current vice president, when he was the Honorable Attorney General. And I think that does not speak well, even though other benefits are granted to them. But if you look at what goes on in the Federal High Court in Lagos, in terms of the infrastructure, I think that one of the priorities for 2022 should be the completion of the project on body law, so that the Federal High Court can become functional optimally. And of course, when you get to the issue of autonomy for the judiciary, it's important that all our state governors should put their acts together and ensure that there is universal agreement and implementation in terms of the agreement they had with Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria. If all these have been done, and then there is the will on the part of government to respect the judiciary and stop interfering in the activities of the courts, obey the orders of courts, I believe that sufficiently the judiciary will cope with the challenges that will come with 2023.
I heard what you said about the infrastructure of the courts, particularly the building at Bodilo in Ikoyi. I recall that the chairman House Committee of Judiciary was in Lagos some 2 months back, and the contractors gave an undertaking, or I think it was part of the agreement, that they actually did say that that project will be completed by the first quarter of this year. So we'll look forward to that. But having said that, I want to also look at the role of lawyers. What can the legal profession do to enforce discipline and sanity and less of forum shopping among lawyers, especially as we go towards the elections?
I think generally, apart from the fact that 2022 marks a prelude to the 2023 general elections, it's also election year for the lawyers, as Mr. Olumide Akpata will be conducting election in August for the purpose of ushering in a new executive. So I think that also gives us the opportunity. But in terms of the role of lawyers in the administration of justice, it's going to be difficult, talking practically, to stem the tide of sharp practices, corrupt practices, transactional judgments, because as you would discover now, virtually all notable person in the country wants to study law, which is good for us. But there's a different motive. Those of us who are actively involved in advocacy, litigation, do so for the purpose of using law to advance society. So probably people have different understanding of what is the purpose of law for society itself. Having said that, it's clear that generally the people involved in most conduct that will come to the unbecoming are senior lawyers, and they have become entrenched, and it's taking time. And so I've come to a conclusion that some of them are bigger than the profession itself. And so we speak about them, we talk in hushed voices, mention their names, talk about what they do. We have cases against them and we see the nature of their practice. But they've become entrenched politically, they've become entrenched professionally. And so it's difficult to uproot them. That's the reality of the matter.
So we're just going to continue like this?
It will take a revolution in the legal profession. So I don't want to deceive myself to say that a particular method can be adopted, because it will involve the security agencies, law enforcement agencies, it will involve the executive, the government of the day, it will involve the judiciary. They are spread all over these places. And from the analysis of what goes on in the appointment of judicial officers, in the conferment of the award of so many other things, it's just virtually impossible to uproot.
Virtually impossible.
I'm telling you the truth.
That's a sad commentary.
For now, that's the reality. It's deep-rooted, and the highest people are involved, with all due respect. They are in the minority, no doubt, but they are well entrenched. That's the truth.
Your pessimism with the change in the legal profession, does it also extend to the issue of dealing with the delays that we see with court proceedings? Proceedings drag endlessly, and that seems to be a perennial problem. What are the concrete things that we can do about that?
The delay in the justice system is purely due to lack of funding. It's due to lack of manpower. You see that this year, because of agitation, 14 judges were appointed for Lagos State alone. And by the time you absorb them into the system, it's as if nothing has happened. Because there are judges who have 600 cases on their dockets, the courts have 70 cases in one day. It's a human being. How many trials would they hear? So the executive is doing this deliberately to slow down judiciary in order not to have an effective system that will checkmate excesses. So that when they do anything and you challenge them, they say, go to court. So we'll meet in court. Knowing that before you go through the process of filing, cases assigned, is heard, trial is conducted, judgment is delivered, the rest is gone.
Wow.
So that to me is the solution, is to confront the executive and get proper funding for the judiciary.
Who should do that?
The NBA has that responsibility. We should take the Nigerian Bar Association back to a pressure group and cut out some of the jamborees and things that we do to try to be on the good books of those who are in power. Because those people are the ones responsible for the rot in the judiciary. So as long as we run to them for funding, as long as we run to them for patronage, for deliveries, to deliver speeches in our conferences, it will be difficult. We make the NBA events purely professional, meant for lawyers alone. There are enough lawyers to address us, to talk to us on contemporary issues, so that when we meet, we take decisions. When the NBA speaks, the people in power should really be shaken.
Away from legal issues, I wanted us to look at some contemporary issues that are playing out, and one of them is this controversy that is brewing with the Magodo land crisis. And even though the governor has said that he would assign lands and there's been a kind of meeting, but the issue of the enforcement of a Supreme Court judgment. Some people are saying that the AGF does not have any role to play or any power with enforcing court judgments. Where do you stand on that issue? What is the law, the position of the law on that issue?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that the executive governor of Lagos State has been able to bring parties to a round table for the purpose of enforcing the judgment, because it was going to be a bad precedent for us in a nation that people still have to go through any form of procedure to reap the fruit of a final judgment of the Supreme Court. Now, under Section 287, Sub 3 of the Constitution, all persons exercising legislative, executive, and judicial authority, all persons exercising authority in our land are bound to obey and enforce and give effect to the judgment of the Supreme Court. Now, under Section 233 of the Constitution, the Supreme Court is the final authority on legal matters in our land. So once a decision is delivered by the Supreme Court, it should be obeyed by everybody. So to that extent, under Section 287, the Attorney General being a member of the executive, the Governor of Lagos State being a member of the executive, the Chief Justice of Nigeria being a member of the judiciary, anybody at all is obliged and encouraged to do everything to ensure that there is an enforcement of the judgment of the Supreme Court. But the method in which it was approached in this particular instance then has thrown up the vexed issue of whether we are actually running a proper federation, because you saw the drama between the executive governor and a chief superintendent of police who refused to obey the directive of the governor. And I think it's what we keep talking about. If the governor is the chief security officer, not just over the police, but over the army, over the navy, and all other security agencies located within his state, there should be statutory power in that regard to make his directive to them to be effective. Because the proviso under Section 215 of the Constitution is that the Commissioner of Police in a state is bound to obey lawful directives given by the governor, except that if he gets back to the president or the Inspector General of Police and they give a contrary directive, he is bound to obey the latter, which means more or less the governor is powerless in terms of security in the land. So given that the National Assembly is currently embarking on the exercise of constitutional amendment, it's important to look at Section 215 to ensure that governors in the states have some modicum of power over security in the state, and also the issue of devolution of power to achieve state police.
Let's talk about the issue of late Sylvester Oromoni, the 12-year-old student of Dowan College. I've read a lot of comments from people who think that with the legal advice of the DPP, the family has been denied justice, because the legal advice clearly says that there's no case, there's no prima facie case made against these people. You haven't been able to link them to the offense committed. And a lot of people think that's the end of the case.
Whatever advice the DPP has given is based on prevailing facts. So since it's a criminal matter involving death, I mean, there's no time limit for investigation or prosecution. So I believe that in the course of time, the family will be engaging and be taking steps towards unraveling further facts, as the case may be. There is a coroner's inquest that is ongoing, and if that is kick-started and the new facts come on board, there will be need for a review of the opinion of the DPP. So there's no finality in the matter yet. We can't say that it has ended. I don't think people should lose hope.
Finally, the issue of the NSAS panel. I'm not sure that you've given any interviews.
No, I have not, deliberately.
Any regrets taking part in that panel, especially with the controversy that trailed the submission of the report?
Personally, no. For me, I took my time to consult when I was invited. And I had a conviction in my heart that I had a national assignment to undertake. So I was convinced that I am properly situated to attend that inquiry on behalf of my constituency, which is civil society, including the Nigerian Bar Association. And so looking back 1 year after, I do accept all responsibility for all actions taken, and I'm glad that I went to the panel. For me, generally, I have no regret. But for people who follow us, for other Nigerians, there is a lot of opinion as to how government operates generally in terms of the capacity to accept, the views of independent people. And then, of course, the second issue is whatever it is that we did at the panel, was just an avenue to reconcile. Our purpose was to reconcile government with their grief persons, the youth, the people who are victims of human rights abuses, and the government did a little bit of that in terms of giving some kind of compensation to the victims that we had their petitions and found them meritorious. We paid them immediately. Justice had been met in those cases. The only thing is the issue of the Lekki toll gate. It was an opportunity. We thought that the government would use the report and be able to embrace the younger people, sit down with them on the round table, discuss the issues agitating their mind. Even if you don't accept the report of the panel, a template has been given to you to be able to reach out to the young people and resolve the matter one way or the other. But to throw it completely overboard is quite unfortunate. That's the only thing I can say.
Welcome back. The Lagos Directorate of Public Prosecution released its legal advice in the case of late Sylvester Oromoni. The advice, which is contained in a 7-page document, was addressed to the Deputy Commissioner, State Criminal Investigation Department, and the trial magistrate Olatubosun Adeola.
The document reads in part, after carefully considering the facts available in the duplicate case file, more particularly the interim and final autopsy reports issued by Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, report of medical practitioner issued by Central Hospital Warri, and toxicology report of post-mortem samples carried out on late Sylvester Oromoni, which revealed the cause of death as septicemia lobar pneumonia, this office is of the view that there is no prima facie case of murder, involuntary manslaughter, and or malicious administering of poison with intent to harm against the 5 minors initially linked with the offense.
We brought this boy all the way from Warri. He was supposed to take all the necessary parts from a sample or substance he wanted to take from this boy before you send them back. Because they have already concluded what they want to do. They did not take even the complete sample, according to them. And they know it.
So when you look at the legal advice from the Office of the DPP of Lagos, what do you make of that legal advice?
That is the height of conspiracy, madam. That is the height of conspiracy. Serious conspiracy between the Lagos State and the Commissioner of Police. Let me tell you, the police were doing a thorough job. The commissioner is the head. He messed up the whole thing. But don't worry, we're not bothered. As a father, the case is just, this is just the beginning.
Families of students in Dowen College, other parents, has any of them reached out to you to say, we understand what you're going through, we've also heard instances like this?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. Yes, of course, yes. And their children are, the children too, since they are out of the school, they are making statements. The police know it. They have their statements too.
The result of the second autopsy carried out in Lagos was released on 21st December 2021. The results attributed the cause of death to septicemia, lobar pneumonia, with acute phalangoprotesis and panocytosis of the right ankle. Because we need to use their terminologies. So pardon me for the pronunciation. On the 30th December 2021, the toxicology screening results of the first autopsy carried out in Warri was released. The result issued and signed by the same Dr. Clements. So, Ferrin Tehiri, same doctor who carried out the initial autopsy, attributed cause of death to acute bacteria due to severe sepsis. That's the result. The second, that the first result carried out by the same doctor on the toxicology is acute bacteria. At the end of the diligent investigation carried out so far, there is no evidence to establish a case of torture, bullying, and forceful application of poisonous substance against the suspects. All the suspects denied the allegations of torture, bullying, and administering a poisonous substance to the deceased. Allegation that the deceased was being forced to join a cult group was also not established, as other students interviewed denied this. Final results of the postmortem and toxicology examination conducted, both at Warri and Lagos, agreed that the deceased died of natural death.
As to the next steps, lawyer to the Oromoni family, senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, says, the report has not laid the allegations surrounding the gruesome murder of Sylvester Oromoni to rest. The report is escapist and hasty, as the authorities are aware that the Chief Coroner of Lagos has ordered that an inquest be conducted into the circumstances surrounding the unnatural death. Meanwhile, members of the Ijaw Youth Council staged a protest in front of Dowen College to express their displeasure over the exoneration of the 5 students and staff and the handling of the issue.
If they open this school on Monday, the whole Ijaw nation will come, we will carry our school bags, we will carry our feeding bottles, we will carry our food, we will join them in the school. They judge the case in their house, they cleared them, we will bring them here. Our son cannot die, and their own children will not walk into this school. It's not possible.
Not possible.
It is not possible.
It's not possible.
We want justice. We want justice. Justice must not be done, but must be seen to be done.
The coroner of the Ekpe District, Magistrate Mikhail Kadri, has fixed Saturday, January the 15th, for the commencement of the inquest. Everyone linked with the incident is expected to be invited to help the inquest get to the root of the issue. At the end of the inquest, the coroner will give his conclusion. He can conclude that death was natural, by accident, or even unlawful. The conclusion can also include any suggestion of blame or recommendations to prevent future deaths from occurring.
And just before we go, a quick recap of the legal news for the week.
We begin with the report that the federal government has formally declared bandit groups operating in the country as terrorists. The declaration, titled Terrorism Prevention Proscription Order Notice 2021, is contained in Volume 108 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Official Gazette. It reads in part, notice is hereby given that by the order of the Federal High Court, Abuja, dated 25th November 2021, the activities of Yambindiga Group, Yantada Group, and other similar groups in Nigeria are declared to be terrorism and illegal in any part of Nigeria, especially in the northwest and north-central regions of Nigeria, and are proscribed pursuant to Sections 1 and 2 of the Terrorism Prevention Act 2011. Consequently, the general public is hereby warned that any person or group of persons participating in any manner whatsoever in any form of activities involving or concerning the collective intentions or otherwise of the groups will be violating the provisions of Terrorism Prevention Act 2011 and liable to prosecution. To party politics, some aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress have taken the Governor Buni-led caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee before a federal high court in Abuja over plans to hold a national convention in February. The applicants are seeking an order of the court to restrain the Buni-led committee from going ahead with the convention. The plaintiffs, through their lawyer, asked the court for an order to stop the convention on the grounds that state congresses are yet to be completed in all the 36 states of the federation. One of the reliefs the plaintiffs asked the court for includes an order of the court restraining the APC and the second defendants from organizing and conducting the National Convention of the APC unless state congresses of the APC are first concluded in all the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. In Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule has sworn in 4 High Court judges. This brings the number of High Court judges appointed by the governor to 9. During the ceremony, the governor reiterated his commitment to prioritizing the judiciary. In Lagos, Magistrate Mikhail Kadri has fixed Saturday, the 15th of January, for the commencement of inquest into the cause of death of 12-year-old student of Dowen College, Lekki, Sylvester Oromoni Jr. In a letter dated 4th January 2022 and addressed to the law firm of Falana and Falana, the legal practitioners of the Oromoni family, the coroner says that the inquest will be conducted by 9 a.m. prompt and the hearing shall be in open court. Magistrate Kadri also reminds the lawyers to file and serve depositions of all witnesses they intend to call at the inquest. They are also to forward to the coroner a list of persons whom, in their opinion, needs to be summoned by the court. And we round off with the report that the Lagos State Government has appointed a former director, Office of the Public Defender, Dr. Babajide Martins as the new Director of Public Prosecutions of the Lagos State Ministry of Justice.
That's the show. Thank you for watching. Please catch up with past episodes on our YouTube page. I'm Shola Shoyele. See you next week.